Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.
So we just finished the podcast with
Michael DeBar.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank Cafe Bohemia, NYC, for letting us do the podcast from here, and we will be doing more podcasts from here.
We're really excited.
And we have...
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming.
And what's your name?
Christine Zantelli.
Christine Zantelli.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing a Motorhead t-shirt.
Yep.
Love it. So, tell us about the history of this place.
It's a crazy history. I walked in this venue back in February when the owner of Barrel Street upstairs was looking to do some music I heard through a friend. And I walked in the place, my hair stood up on my arms, and I said, whoa, this is something I didn't know. I didn't know it was Cafe Bohemia. And Cafe Bohemia was this jazz club back in 1950 to 1960. It was open because Charlie Parker had come in the bar. It wasn't Cafe Bohemia yet. And he was drinking Brandy Alexander's at the end of the bar. And Garofalo, who owned the club at that point, approached him and was like, what are we going to do here? And he's like, well, I'm Charlie Parker. And he's like, I don't know who Charlie Parker is. And he goes, well, I'm this jazz guy. And so they agreed to do a performance, and he'd wipe the tab, and he could come in and drink for free.
Wow.
So they built the stage, and they started promoting the show, and he was living across the street. He was down and out at that time, living across the street with a poet. And unfortunately, by the time they finished the club, he passed away. So he never got to play here. But during that time, the hype had gotten so big, record companies who were representing Miles Davis at the time were like, we need to get in there. We have this new thing, and we need to get you in there. We got this record coming out on Prestige. And so they called Philly Joe Jones down in Philadelphia, and they said, we need to put a band together. And he's like, I got this guy, got John Coltrane. And so they brought up John Coltrane, and they put this hard bop together down here.
Wow.
And then the word just started spreading. And they had done several months in the venue, and there were a lot of recordings down here. If you're ever in the area, stop by, because we got a lot of the albums on the walls. But Art Blakey played here, and the Jazz Messengers, Kenny Dorham, Charles Mingus, and they all recorded down in this venue. And one of the great stories is Cannonball Adderley came in from Florida, and he wanted to get in on the scene. There's a couple of different stories, but
Nat
this
and
is
Cannonball Adderley. They're brothers, right?
Yeah,
There's two of
Nat.
them.
Yeah.
and Cannonball.
So
I used
he
to love
came.
that stuff.
Yeah. So he had come in before Nat, and they'd come in from Florida. And the thing is, I forget who was playing that night, but they were like, we're not going to let that kid up, you know. And then he kept hanging around because they were playing down here. And finally he said, let's let him up and make fun of him on stage, you know. And then he gets up and he blows up, and like the next day he's got a record contract. All of a sudden he's like Cannonball Adderley. And so now he's part of the mix with all these incredible guys. And this lasted for about 5 years.
What year was this?
This is 1955 to 1960. I don't know what happened. I think the times changed, you know. 1960s came, and change of times. But as I was digging deeper in this venue, as I was finding out more and more and more, I found out that back in the 40s, this was also a jazz venue. And the story goes that the owners of the club, wasn't a jazz club at the time, were stealing from the vending machine guys, were these mafioso people in Queens. And so they came in and took over. They just said, you're out, and we're taking your club. But they had no idea how to run a club. And someone said, well, I know this guy, Max Kaminsky, this New Orleans jazz trumpet player. And so they brought him in, and all of a sudden there was a scene here. And they had stride piano players in here, and it was called the Pied Piper. Stride piano players, and then one of the records that was on the wall was recorded down here in 1947. So there's so much history in this space.
Yeah.
You know.
What happened in the 60s here?
Well, I really don't know.
You don't know?
No, there was a lesbian bar for a little while.
Right.
There was just someone owned it before the current owners that own Barrel Street Ale House. he had it for 20 years. And then the bartender bought him out. And but prior to that, you know, I don't really know what was happening here. It was just different, always open, but and different bars, but
never a music venue.
Never
since
music
the 60s.
Not since the 60s.
That's
so.
wild.
Yeah.
So since the 60s, no music.
No.
Can we change that back to music?
We're doing that right now. So we've been open 3.5 weeks, and so we have.
It's reopened.
We're reopened, 3.5 weeks ago.
Wow.
So we've been working on it since last February. I happened to walk in, and the guy said, "I've been wanting to open this place up for 20 years."
That's amazing.
And I said, "All right, let's do it." And
this is a great little room for music right here.
Yeah.
I want to play here.
You should play here.
Yeah, I should play here.
It sounds phenomenal, really.
Yeah.
And is the logo original from the 60s? Or
The logo is from one of the back of the albums. It looks like that, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
looks like it was just here. But
What album?
I don't
You
remember. Honestly, I don't remember.
And where did the name come from? Just Beatniks?
It comes from Czechoslovakia.
Mm-hmm.
Bohemians came from Czechoslovakia. They were like nomads and artists, and they moved to France. And there was in like near Montmartre.
Mm-hmm.
They hung out near there, and they became Bohemians. They called them Bohemians.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then eventually it came to the United States, and the whole Bohemia thing happened. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so they're people from Bohemia in Czechoslovakia.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cool to do a podcast down here because a podcast is a lot like jazz.
Mm-hmm.
It's improvisation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good that we can tap into that energy. How do you think that you felt the spirit of it when you came in here?
It was electrifying. And it wasn't just once. People would come in, I'd show the room to somebody, and you wouldn't believe what it looked like. I mean, there was a pool table there was dartboards. Did you see, you were here when the pool table,
yeah,
it was like,
sort of, yeah.
And
a lot went into this room to make it look like it does right now.
Yeah, but the sound is amazing, and I think it has something to do with all the musicians that played here throughout the years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like they're hanging around. The ghosts are hanging around.
There's an album cover there with Miles Davis on it.
Now that album wasn't recorded here, but that was a famous picture that was recorded here.
Taken here.
Yeah. There's a whole series of those red pictures of Miles, and they were all taken here. I can't think of the name of the photographer, but yeah, that whole series. And so they were also known for that red light. That's all they had. So if you ever see pictures from Cafe Bohemia back in 1955, it's all just red. Just red, the worst possible color you could really
for photos.
Film in. Yeah, It's either black and white or that. But that's an iconic picture. So
cool. And it's 15 Barrow Street,
15
West
Barrow
Village.
Street.
Yeah. Is there a website yet?
Yep. Finally, we're up and running.
And
it's not the
Instagram.
prettiest thing, but it's Cafe Bohemia NYC.com.
And at Cafe Bohemia NYC on Instagram.
Yeah. And Facebook, all Cafe Bohemia, NYC.
And I'm also starting to do sessions, the one-on-one sessions from here as well.
That's smart.
Yeah, we're looking for a new home. And James Maddock, who who we've had on the podcast too, said you should reach out to Christine. She's got a new club opening up. It's James Maddock is why we're here.
Yes.
Shout out James.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Well, we can't thank you enough.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah. It's like, it's great when you come together and you do things that like help lift up the culture in a way, or like, like it when people get that it works to like, I don't know, just collaborate and build something new, build the new legends,
For sure.
Like,
new scene,
maybe like 70 years from now, people are going to be talking about, and then this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean? It started right here.
Yeah.
And our spirits will be hanging out in the walls.
Exactly.
Going,
We'll be kicking it. I'll be in that speaker right there. Going,
yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Christine.
Thanks for
Christine.
having me.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for coming.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. That was
Awesome.
great.